Welcome into episode 8 of Texans on Tap. I'm Brandon Strange, joined by Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. Texans try to extend the streak heading into Atlanta to face the Falcons, who just dropped their second loss of the season to the Jags. Guys, how can the Texans and CJ Stroud build on the momentum they have this season?
He's almost due for a mini step back at some point, in that he's not going to go his entire career without throwing an interception. Well, if he does, boy, did the Texans hit the jackpot. Sacked 0 times in consecutive games. Will the offensive line continue to hold up whoever comprises it as well as it did in the last couple of games? So other than that, the expectations on Stroud shouldn't be that he's going to get better every week, because that's just not possible. Just keep on keeping on. Just be sound with your decision-making. They can continue to grow out the offensive game plan. If they can run it on the ground a little bit better than they've done through the first 4 games of the season. You don't look at the Falcons defense and see a whole bunch of premium playmakers there. So Stroud and the Texans, obviously weather's not going to be an impact. If it's bad, they'll just close the roof over there. Just steady progression. Texans are only a 2-point underdog, so that's strictly a function of the game is under that Mercedes-Benz deal there. And start this run against the NFC South, 4 consecutive games split by their open week after the first 2, where you can say, look, running the table is not impossible, but the Texans aren't such a finished product that, if they're 3-5 a month from now, they'll be, who could have possibly seen that coming? But that they can be 5-3 through this 4-game stretch is very viable, and that starts with CJ Stroud.
Yeah, and you brought up the running game, Charlie. They might get a little help with that, because we should have Titus Howard hopefully returning. It looks like he's coming off IR. Juice Scruggs, who was penciled in to be your starting center at the beginning of the year, he should be coming back. We'll see about Charlie Heck as well. So they should be getting some better players back on the offensive line. Laramie Tunsil's dealing with that knee. I don't know if he'll be back this week. It's still kind of murky there. But, just getting Howard and Scruggs back is going to be huge. And Green got banged up in the game this past weekend, so I don't know if he'll be able to go in this next game. So it's a good time to be getting healthy, getting some players back. Charlie mentioned it's that the spread's not very big. I'll be curious to see when Vegas starts coming around and giving the Texans a little more respect here. I guess going on the road, they're going to, like Charlie said, stick with the home team deal with right around a field goal. But I expect them to come out and win this football game. So we'll see. Stopping the run will be tough. They still gave up some yardage to Najee Harris and some of the Pittsburgh Steelers guys, but against the Falcons, you got Bijan Robinson, top running back, explosive player. So that's somebody they're going to have to pay a lot of attention to. But you certainly don't worry about the Falcons' pass game all that much. They've only had 2 games where Ritter's thrown for over 200 yards, and it was 201 and 237. He's never thrown for more than 1 touchdown in a game so far this season. So if they can just keep the running game in check, Kyle Pitts has been a big disappointment at tight end. He's just not getting the targets for being a first-round pick. And Drake Ludden's a good player, but they're not throwing the ball very much. So I think Steven Nelson should be able to keep him under wraps. I think this is an opponent that the Texans should be feel very good about beating.
I would think on one hand that it's a real challenge for the coaching staff this week because, anyone who follows the NFL knows playing the comparative score game is buyer beware or better beware. The Texans go and trash the Jaguars. The Jaguars the next week dominate Atlanta, and now the Texans get Atlanta. Boy, this should be easy, right? Human nature, the element, the Texans are aware of those outcomes. But I just think, with everyone rowing the boat and feeling good about the way things are going, and D'Amico Ryans will probably send the message, we really haven't accomplished anything, guys. We've established that we're not bad and we're working hard, and that's why we're getting results. So no slipping up, right? There really aren't laurels to start resting on. So I think that really waters down that, if there was any semblance of fathead syndrome that could creep in. I think we're still early enough in the Texans' overall process to have that negated. It doesn't mean the Falcons can't have a good day at home. They'll have a pretty good crowd, but they're not notoriously difficult fans to go in and play before and win. And Josh covered their so-called skill position guys. Right? Bijan Robinson's had 2 big games and 2 games. Well, one of the 100-yard games was when they scored 7 points last week against Jacksonville. Pitts as a rookie, the Falcons hired Arthur Smith from Tennessee to be their offensive genius. And part of that was how to develop Kyle Pitts, who had 60 catches, 1,000 yards as a rookie, and now a season and 4 games in since. What's going on with that guy? So there's no fundamental reason to think the Texans can't win this game. It's a little early to say they flat out should win this game, but the feel of is that they will win this game.
Yeah, this is the thing where their offense doesn't pose a huge threat. So I think if D'Amico can just kind of keep the score low and CJ does his thing, I think they should be able to get out of there with a victory.
Well, they've only given up 21 points over their last 2 games, the Texans, going up against a Falcons team that only scored 7 against the Jags. This really looks like an opportunity for this smothering, swarming Texans defense to take advantage of. And if the Texans can string together 3 wins in a row, and especially with a team that they're not even really done building yet. These aren't even the final pieces. I mean, with health concerns, and they're still looking to plug in draft picks. Next year they're still building this squad. You've got some really important pieces, but what will this mean for this team to win a 3rd game and be above 500 on a year in which we were kind of thinking maybe that draft pick this year is going to be worth more than what it's kind of trajectory now that they're on? Doesn't look like maybe that's as important anymore. What will that mean for this team?
Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals are very chagrined at the Texans' thumping pulse these days, devaluing that pick the Texans give up week to week. The Falcons also only scored 6 points in eating it against Detroit the week before, scoring only 7 against Jacksonville. So, if their form chart holds, they opened with 2 wins over Carolina, which stinks, and then managed to eke one out over Green Bay, which seems to be mediocre. So is it possible here in week 5? The Lions look legitimately good. I can say that the Texans are the best team, actually, that the Falcons have played so far this season. But there's the big picture, having ripped apart the foundation and the pillars the Texans were going to build around whoever the head coach was over the last 3 years, and Jack Easterby and all that garbage and waste of time. And now they feel like a real NFL franchise again. So there's that overall that, okay, the Texans are back in the NFL. And then there's that narrower picture where it's just not that hard to see them in a division race, right? In season 1, where maybe 9-8 can win this division, or the Texans are that team that, oh my God, it goes from deep double-digit losses to double-digit wins, which also happens almost every season in the NFL, like a team going from last place, there are only 4-team divisions, to first place in the next year. So, perchance to dream, it's not really that dreamy with what they've shown and what the rest of the division has shown over the first months. So each game now is important on its own merit for this season and the standings now, as well as continuing to lay brick by brick for what they ultimately hope to become, to run with the Kansas Cities and Baltimores and Buffaloes of the AFC.
Yeah, that's it right there. The excitement of having a player like Patrick Mahomes to root for, and an explosive offense. A lot of people figured with D'Amico being a defensive coach that maybe the offense wouldn't be so great. This would be a team where they win low scoring games, try not to shoot themselves in the foot. But that's not what they're doing with Bobby Slowick and CJ. They're an offensive team. When they're up, they keep being aggressive and just throwing dagger shots down the field. Even there was a little lull in that Pittsburgh game where you started to wonder, like, oh, are they creeping back in it? Are they going to get too conservative here? No. CJ kept attacking downfield successfully. Guys kept getting open. So I think that's the excitement. Texans fans, it's a great product to watch now. They're winning games. The future looks great. Very good coaching to go along with. And the draft, it's looking like the 2023 draft is, we talked about this last week, it's going to save Casario's bacon. And even how much they gave up for Will Anderson, if you put that together with CJ Stroud and that they wanted to get both of those guys, then it doesn't look like you gave up too much, because you've got a true franchise quarterback that, he's on a Pro Bowl trajectory right now. If you land that, you did your job as a GM.
To be great in the NFL, obviously you need some superstar players and you need depth and you need to go perform. But to be at least decent, right? If you're not doing the stuff to beat yourself, and the Texans, if they're going to, majority of the game is win the turnover battle. Against the Steelers, they committed 8 penalties to Pittsburgh's 2 and still won the game easily. Maybe you can get a hold on that stuff, and no false start penalties, encroachment penalties, the dead ball stuff that giving away free first downs or yardage. Get a handle on that, and a quarterback who's been turnover proof, save for one strip sack fumble. That's a formula to at least hang in games. And a team with new systems on both sides of the ball, if there's just that natural progression across the course of the season. I'm not saying the Chiefs and Bills are going to be saying, oh no, how are we going to win the AFC this year? But the Texans can become a tough out for most teams. And in a league where probably 3/4 of the teams are from pretty good on down, nothing special. The Texans week in, week out are exciting and interesting to follow, right? The Falcons and then the Saints, we may be at a spot where we're saying, oh, man, the open week, disrupting the flow and momentum. Whereas for the last 3 seasons, when the open week got here, guys, can't you just take the rest of the year off? Can't we just call the season right now? The new age has dawned.
Indeed. And all of the teams that were looking at the Texans on their schedule, looking at as automatic W's, might be thinking differently now. And Josh, I'm with you. It's how they are playing, which is exciting. They punch back, they answer rallies, and so far have taken advantage of turnovers, which is really exciting to see. It's what you want to see from a pro level team. And that's gonna do it for the well, before they almost passed up predictions. Guys, let's end it with predictions. Give me final score from Texans Falcons.
Well, I know where Josh is going, so I'm going to stick with being wrong and take the Falcons. The Texans are going to have those bumps in the road. Falcons probably in their division aren't thinking that, we have to save our season this week. But I'll just go Atlanta 23, Texans 20. And I guess from a Texans fan perspective, hoping I keep my streak intact as the Texans keep their streak intact.
I'm taking the Texans here again. Maybe something like 24-17. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think the Texans should win pretty convincingly.
All right, well, that's going to be it for episode 8 of Texans on Tap. We'll be back next week to recap this game and a whole lot more. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Texans.